back to my sort of theme that I've been talking through around these different levers of optimization. I talked about the fact that traditionally the value chain is broken up into these digestible chunks. The future way of working actually needs to disconnect the human organizational structure from the operational organizational structure. And right back to my original things that I've talked about around why diversity of thought and diversity is critical. You could argue that the same thing is around the structures and the hierarchical structures that have operated up until today have also created some of these inherent issues that we're actually facing in the industry. So the future of work and where we're heading actually requires a real rethink around what is important and what does an organisational structure look like. And we know that in a really command and control directive organisation, that's not where females thrive. And so if we're in a more empowering, accountable workforce where people actually work together and actually are more collaborative and are more open to co-creation, females thrive in that environment a lot better. But it's not just females that thrive in that environment. We've got our neurodiverse team, we've got multiple levels of diversity. And you need to think about the organisation and what you're doing, because again, the traditional hierarchical structures that got us here today have not allowed for females and other diversity really to thrive in those environments. So the future of work really actually has us rethink, what does it mean to actually thrive at work? And for me, it's also about, we've always looked at how do people work for an organisation. Maybe we need to start rethinking it and saying, well, how does the organisation actually work for people? And how do we as leaders actually adjust the way that we communicate, the way that we show up, that actually creates this psychologically safe environment where people can feel free to actually show up and be themselves. I do actually think the mining industry wants to hear this message. Now, had you have asked me that question 3 to 5 years ago, I would say, yeah, probably not. But I think as I've touched on, ESG is the revolution. It is actually driving us to think really differently. Mining's not attracting people the way that it used to. If you look at the stats about even the graduates going into mining engineering, I think there's only something like 4% of young people in the ages from 18 to 30 or 35 that actually say they would like to pursue a career in the mining industry. That's not a great deal of people. So we actually have to hear this message and we have to look at what it means. And mining is still critical to decarbonising the future. The battery metals and everything are actually critical for us to actually rapidly decarbonise the industry. And I think we have to think differently and we have to do things differently, because we're not going to get there at the rate that we need to get there if we don't think differently.